Hello again. Today, well, I wanted to talk with you about this camera. When you see reviews of cameras, lots of times people, the ones who made these reviews, refer to a camera as a beginner or for a more advanced photographer camera. I think that is total bullshit. If you look at SLR cameras, most manufacturers, well, I think 99% of the cameras that were being made were also for beginners, as sometimes with extra options for advanced users, because all the manufacturers, they wanted to benefit and sell as much as cameras as possible. So, and everyone when starting to use a camera is at one point a beginner. So all those manufacturers, made these cameras so user-friendly that even a beginner can use them. That being said, I do think that what people usually mean with beginner camera is referring to the price as a cheap camera. And for instance, when I hear reviews of the Praktikas, they sell it as a very nice beginner's camera, and I have doubts about that. Yes, it's cheap, not in quality. Quality is great. But is it easy for beginners? Well, as a beginner, if you follow the manual, you know everything about aperture in combination with shutter speed and how the light meter is working, etc. So yes, in that way it's beginner, but also for advanced photographers there are lots of possibilities, to make the whole procedure more creative. So I don't want to brand cameras as beginner or advanced, really. I think you should use the word user-friendly in this case. And when I was thinking about what to say about this camera, I came to the word user-friendly because this is a really user-friendly camera, perfectly to use for beginners as well as for advanced photographers who want to put some creative varieties in it, and I will show it how that works. This is the Chinon CA-4, a SLR from Chinon, and with a beautiful lens from Chinon, and this camera is a Aperture priority camera, and that means that the control here has a few options. Auto, that means Aperture priority mode, and Aperture priority mode, in that case the camera determines the shutter speed on basis of the aperture you have chosen. So you choose the aperture, you cock the shutter, the camera measures the amount of light that's coming in, and then calculates how much shutter time it needs with this aperture opening to make the picture well lightened. So that is the thing with aperture control. The only thing you have to adjust in the camera is the distance, and with that it's very easy if you look through the viewfinder, and the aperture. Now, if you have set those values, then it's very easy with this camera to make a picture. However, in the viewfinder, the camera will show you what shutter speed is being chosen. Now, if the shutter speed is between 160 and 1,000th of a second, because the shutter speeds of this camera go from bulb to 1,000th of a second, stepless. So it's not that it goes from 60 to 125th to 125. No, it's stepless. So everything between all those standard values can be chosen by this camera. Very nice. So you see in the viewfinder, you see the shutter speed with some LEDs. Well, if they correspond between 60 and 1,000th of a second, you know that you can take the photo by hand and it will not be moved. It will not be moving a picture. And then, like, well, today when I look outside, it's a cloudy day. If I go outside with this camera, I'm for sure I will never go under, even on this day, under the 60th of a second. If you need longer shutter speeds, if you see in the viewfinder you need longer shutter speed, you can put a wire in here and a remote for the shutter, put the camera on a tripod and fire the shutter as such. Now that is basically how the camera operates. The camera also gives in the viewfinder information on over and under exposure. So basically looking through the viewfinder and choosing the aperture, you can get the shutter speed range within the limits that are good for handheld photography. Now, so far so good. You know, this is for user experience, for easy to use. It's ideal. You set the aperture and then the camera, you know, it sets a shutter speed. If I want, for instance, in a creative process, have some more bokeh, this lens gives beautiful bokeh, by the way. I set the aperture to 1.7 and then look through the viewfinder, take the picture, only watch that there's no over or under exposure, and if it's above 160 of a second and below 1,000th of a second, you can fire the shutter and you will have a beautiful photo. So there are, even with the lack of the manual shutter speed selection, there are creative possibilities. If I want to do it easy and let's say, okay, it is let's say just a cloudy day outside and I want a set aperture of 16 because I want everything between around 2 meters 80 and infinity I wanted to have in focus. Now, if you go street photographing or buildings or nature or whatever, what you do is you set it like this, you look through the viewfinder in the surrounding where you want to take your pictures, and you see if the aperture is between 160 and 1,000th of a second. Okay? If that is the case, you are sure you can just advance the shutter and fire. And you know the shutter speed will be okay, and you know everything between 2 meters and 80 centimeters and infinity will be sharp. Ideal. So this can be used, you know, this is all in the manuals also. So to say this is only for advanced photographers, it's not, because if you read the manual you can see what you can do with the aperture. There is on this camera a possibility to correct the exposure settings, and that is here. Here you set the film sensitivity, but you also have the possibility here to correct the exposure time. So exposure correction. You lift this wheel and then you turn how much you want to correct it. I have 100 ASA film in it, so if I put the 100 1 dot ahead, then I have corrected with 1 stop. So that is how easy it goes, and that gives you, and that goes for overexposure and underexposure. So that gives you, in controlling the shutter speed, some creative possibilities, because normally when you have a camera with manual shutter speed, you can adjust the shutter speed to get the over or needed underexposure, whatever you want in the creative process. But you can do that here also by just fooling the camera with the exposure correction knob. This is a Pentax K-mount camera. That means a lot of lenses are available for this camera. Lots of good lenses are available. And so you can buy whatever you want and it's there. You can see, even I don't know exactly what the use of it is, but if you release the shutter, there goes this little red light. I don't know what the use of it is, but anyway, it's there. But having this with the Pentax K-mount, it's superb. Now there are 2 other options here on top, and that is X, and this you choose with the if you have flash. In the viewfinder, if you have a dedicated Chinon flash, in the viewfinder you will also see an indication if the flash is ready to use. Now, what I was saying about creative processes and shutter time, there's also a bulb function. So that means if you want to make a picture at night and make those beautiful pictures, you know, where those cars have these lights and they become stripes, and it is possible. You can open the lens as long as you want, and you take the wire connection for the remote shutter speed release, and you control the shutter speed as long as you want. Of course, you have to put it on a tripod, but the connection for the tripod is here. Here you see the battery cap. This camera goes on 3 SR or LR44 batteries. 3, not 2, not 1, but 3. That's quite exceptional, but it's, well, that's the case. The shutter is a metal shutter, electronic. Now, so if I was, you know, I bought this camera for 35 euros. It came in a bundle with some other cameras, and it was recalculated 35 euros with this lens. Actually, it's a superb lens. So if you want to buy, you know, a camera that makes stunningly good, sharp pictures, and you want to have control over the aperture, and you want to have a nice system to, you know, to focus, and an SLR is, when it comes to focusing, very convenient. This is a split image prism, so focusing can be dead accurate, and that is very nice if you shoot with the aperture wide open. You need to focus very well, and with an SLR you can focus very well. So if you want to buy a compact camera with no hassle for manual settings, but you want to control the aperture, well, this is ideal. It's a super camera, and even if you're an advanced photographer, there are plenty of creative escape settings possible to use this camera. Now, just earlier I was telling you about, let's say, the aperture setting of 16. Like I said, today now outside it's very clouded, but you know, if you go outside and like today for street photography, what I experienced is that people are less, well, pleased by the fact that you take their photograph. Some people become just hostile if they see a lens pointing at them. If you want to go on the street, if you do a lot of street photography, you know, this is a little gadget I bought on AliExpress, and it makes it immediately a waist level viewfinder, and the image you get in it is very bright, and with the setting you have here, you know, you put this camera on your waist, you cock the shutter, you put the frame in what you want, where you want to take the picture of, and just release the shutter, and everything between 2 meter and 80 centimeter and infinity is sharp. Now, even if you want to have a closer range, and you know, if the weather is even more beautiful, yeah, you know, you can go for an aperture of 22, and then everything between 1 meter and 80 centimeters and infinity will be sharp. So, and even, you know, with all the markings here, it is some necessary, you know, if you want to find focus, the thing you can do is focus through the viewfinder. But if you're on the street and you do not want to point the camera at someone with, you know, in front of your face, and have the camera at face level of the one you want to photograph, then use this mode. This option is super. If by any chance your victim, your composition is 3 meters away, and you have an aperture of 8, you know, everything between what is this, about 4 meters and 2.2 meter and 20 centimeters is sharp, and then you can choose your subject in here, and that's also a way to photograph. It's like, it's a bit using this SLR. You can use any SLR like this, but it's using the SLR with the waist viewfinder as you use a zone focusing camera. In that combination, in street photography, you can be very anonymous and make very sharp pictures all the way, and nobody notices you're taking pictures because you have the camera on your waist. You know, it's not that you're taking their pictures, but the camera is just there. So A very nice gadget for this camera. It fits on every hot shoe, so you can use this on every camera, even on old SLRs, on old zone focusing cameras, or old rangefinder cameras, and we'll use it in combination with the zone focusing principle. For now, this camera has all the possibilities, I think, and it's very user-friendly. If you want to shut it off, you just set it to X or B, and then the electronics are shut off. And you know, like I said, very user-friendly, because you only have to set the distance and the aperture, and then the camera determines the shutter speed, and you can check the shutter speed in the viewfinder. There are red LEDs between the numbers between underexposure, overexposure, and 1 second to 1/1000th of a second, because 1/1000th of a second is the fastest shutter. Well, that's about it on this camera. You know, like I said, I did not pay much for this camera, and Chinon, it is very well made. It's heavy, it's quite heavy. There are plastic parts on it, but it feels very well built. It's not you have some complete plastic thing in your hand. So yeah, love this camera. Very easy to use, and I think for, well, if you're a beginner or advanced photographer, it's a little gem to have, because it's very cheap and you can put all your K-mount lenses on it. So, you know, it's, yeah, I simply love it. If you have any questions about this camera or any comments, just let me know. Put them under this video and I will answer you as soon as possible. Thank you very much.